Hello everyone, welcome back to Fight Tonight channel. Friends, before starting to watch this video, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for supporting me, guys. Boxing has been looking in 2023, with some of the biggest matches possible coming together, and some of the world's best boxers elevating their game to new levels. From Gervonta Tank Davis drilling Ryan Garcia with a fight-ending body shot, to Terence Crawford and Naoya Inoue elevating themselves to the undisputed number 1 and 2 pound-for-pound fighters in the sport, to new champions across several weight classes. The year has been as good for boxing as any in recent memory. As with any sport, there is an unavoidable desire to ask what's next. For some of the sport's biggest stars, we know who they'll face in their next trip to the ring. For others, they are ideals but nothing set in stone. Terence Crawford, a rematch with Errol Spence Jr. Crawford thoroughly dismantled Spence in their July 29 clash, dominating nearly every moment of the fight before forcing the TKO in round 9. Crawford's performance was so impressive that it jumped him over Naoya Inoue, who had his own dominant win over Stephen Fulton days before in the most pound-for-pound rankings. That fight came with a rematch clause, which Spence made clear he would be activating with the hope that the rematch would take place at 154 pounds. Crawford seemed open to taking the fight at junior middleweight, talk that hasn't been sorted. Either way, it appears Crawford and Spence are destined to run it back in a fight that could further stamp Crawford as the best fighter in boxing, or could provide some degree of redemption for Spence. Next one, Saul Alvarez clash with Jermell Charlo. This fight is already booked to take place in September, while many expected Alvarez to defend his undisputed super middleweight titles against the other Charlo twin, Jermell. He was not ready to get back in the ring. However, undisputed junior middleweight champion Jermell Charlo stepped up to take the fight. This will be Alvarez's third defense of his status as undisputed champion. He picked up his 4th world title at super middleweight with his win over Caleb Plant and dropped the decision to Dmitry Bivol at lightweight. Alvarez's first defeat since losing to Floyd Mayweather in September 2013. Next one, Gervonta Tank Davis trainers against Isaac Cruz rematch is next. Davis picked up a high-profile win early in the year, stopping Ryan Garcia with a left hook to the liver. Davis has become one of the sport's biggest stars, and has done so while not yet fighting most of the top talent in the division, and with most of his recent fights either being for secondary titles or no title on the line at all. A fight with Cruz isn't exactly the most in-demand option for Davis, especially considering he already beat Cruz in a competitive fight that saw Davis forced to fight one-handed because of a hand injury. Davis trainer Kelvin Ford recently said they were just waiting for a contract to come across for their next fight before suggesting it would be Pitbull Cruz. Cruz has been angling hard for the rematch and just cleared a very tricky hurdle with a split decision win over an awkward Giovanni Cabrera in late July. The next one, Ryan Garcia, a possible world title showdown with Rolando Romero. Losing to Davis was certainly a career setback for Garcia, and now he has the chance to prove he has the resiliency to bounce back. Garcia has called for a fight with Rolando Romero, which Romero has talked up as a huge fight. There are obvious reasons Garcia would target Romero, mainly that Romero's WBA super lightweight title appears one of the easiest to take in the sport. Romero was getting thoroughly handled by Ismael Barroso in May, when the fight was stopped during Romero's first stretch of meaningful offense, handing him the vacant title by a universally derided TKO stoppage. Romero has looked very vulnerable in recent outings, and someone hunting for their first world title eyeing him makes sense. Very hard for MMA guys to do boxing. Jorge Masvidal remains brutally honest days after Sean O'Malley calling out Gervonta Davis. What do both Gervonta Davis and Sean O'Malley have in common? Both are extraordinary fighters known for their exceptional skills and devastating power. While Davis has his streak knocking out 27 opponents out of 29, O'Malley has his stake as the number 8 in the UFC's pound-for-pound rankings. Moreover, the rising MMA star displayed another spectacular bout at the recent UFC 292, as he added another victory under his belt. However, what shocked the world was that the fighter took the opportunity to call out Tank during the post-fight interview. He stated, "I wouldn't mind knocking out Gervonta Davies, and I know people are going to say I wanna be like Conor McGregor. I'm telling you, that fight is going to happen." As the hype for the potential bout builds up, former MMA fighter Jose Masvidal has given his opinions on the matter. With his victory over the long-standing champion Aljamain Sterling, Sugar became a champion himself. He now plans to prove the mind of his fists in the boxing ring, and he plans to use Tank as a stepping stone to rise to an unprecedented level of fame. He wants to enter the ring with WBA regular champion, as he is sure that the fight will materialize. However, Masvidal dashes the hopes of the American fighter in an interview. He stated that he's always gonna cheer for my MMA brothers and sisters. However, he added that Gervonta Davies is a boxer unlike Inoue, who is an MMA fighter. Thus, he believes that Tank has an advantage over the Batman-weight fighter. He claimed, "So the odds would probably be with Tank, but I'll be with Almighty because he is my brother in MMA. I'm always gonna cheer for those guys. It's a different world, man. It's not fair, you know." Moreover, he told them to ask the boxer to allow kicks to be included in the matchup. He stated that it would change up the dynamics completely. Masvidal pointed out that boxing is very hard for MMA fighters. Devin Haney does not yield to Teofimo Lopez as the top guy at 140 pounds. Facing Josh Taylor made a lot more sense for Teofimo Lopez when he held all of the titles at 140 pounds. His reasoning was as simple as could be: become a two-time undisputed champion. Now, depending on who you ask, Lopez either was or was not an undisputed champion at 135 pounds, considering that he held the WBC's franchise title along with the IBF, WBA and WBO crowns. Many believed that he needed to defeat Devin Haney, who held the full version of the WBC belt, in order to achieve undisputed status. Confusing issues aside, in the eyes of many, including Mauricio Suleiman, the sanctioning body's president, Lopez was an undisputed champion. Taylor, on the other hand, gave up 3 of his 4 titles in an attempt to swerve his mandatories and line up another date with Jack Catterall, someone he controversially defeated. Whatever took place at those conclaves, however, did not lead to an immediate rematch. Even with Taylor having just 1 belt in his possession, the WBO Lopez opted to take him on. "I can't say he is the guy," Haney told KO Artist Sports during an interview. "He is probably the most popular in the 140 pounds. In Haney's mind, a win over Pro Grace would mean more than just becoming a 2-Division champion. According to the newly instated 140-pound contender, Pro Grace is the #1 super lightweight in the world. I think Rages would be that guy," Devin said. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel.